African proverb says the child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel the warmth. What time in your life have you been closest to starting the fire? For some reason or another, my mother hated me. As a little girl I could never understand why she treated me so much worse than my 3 other siblings. And I would often go up to my grandmother and ask her, why doesn't my mama love me? She never could give me a straight answer and would tell me, your mama loves you and the only way she knows how. That answer confused me because she loved my siblings just fine. Disclaimer: her love was toxic AF. And she did a different type of damage to my other siblings. Now when I say that my mother treated me badly, it started out with her picking fights with me. She would constantly nitpick at everything I did, chastising me, and at the end of the day punishing me harshly for something that could have been a gentle scolding. When I got older, she started cussing at me and calling me names. She would often ignore me for days on end, and when she would talk to me it would be to make me the butt end of a bad joke, or to tell me she hated me. Yes, my mother looked me dead in my eyes and told me she hated me. Disclaimer number 2. She was a drug addict and alcoholic, and she loves to claim all the emotional abuse she put me through as a child was the effects of the drugs. And it wasn't even that bad. It was things like that that really began to tear at me. After a while, all sorts of terrible things she did to me growing up, the terrible things she said, and how she ignored me constantly, all of it very different than how she treated my other 3 siblings. She was very close with one of my brothers and my sister. She would spend time with them constantly, take them anywhere, buy them anything that they wanted, and it made me resent them. My sister would sometimes rub it in my face that mom loved her more. It was her way of having power over me, and it was one of the things that made my rage bubble over on innocent people. I just wanted to be loved and accepted. I wanted to be cared for and cherished as a child should be. And when I didn't get that, I plotted on how I was going to get her love and affection. In my screwed up mind, I thought that if I got rid of my older brother and younger sister, I would be one of the only people left for her to love. I planned on killing my brother. How screwed up is that? It wasn't just some thought that passed through my head. It was a constant idea. A plan that I was putting into place to end his life so that I could make room in my mother's heart for me. I feel ashamed writing it out. It was a dark time in my life, and I was also incredibly mentally ill. My brother was addicted to pain medications, and my parents were trying desperately to get him clean at the time. Ironically, at the same time he was going on a drug-induced rampage, my sister had shattered her leg on a trampoline. She was on some pretty heavy pain pills, and while my mother was doing everything in her power to keep my brother away from the drugs, she would leave my sister and her drugs in my care. So one day, while my mother was out dealing with my brother and my sister was sleeping, I took the rest of her pills. My sister was super afraid of becoming addicted to drugs after watching what my mother and brother were going through, so there was a ton left, and I waited for my brother to come back. When I heard him come through his window, his room was next to mine. I went into the kitchen and made him a glass of juice. Earlier in the day I had crushed up the pills into a powder, and I mixed them into the juice. I went up to his room, knocked on the door, and offered him the cocktail of various prescription drugs. He took the juice, and right before he was about to drink it I had thought, how could I do this to my own brother? I snatched the drink back, and it spilled all over the carpet. He was high and super pissed, but at least he was alive. I never tried anything like that again. It felt so sick, wrong, evil. I mean, what type of person thinks about killing their brother? Besides, my brother dying wouldn't make my mother love me anymore. She would have just resented me for living instead of him. So that's the sad, sick story of how I almost executed my brother. I didn't actually carry through with it, obviously, and I guess everyone lived happily ever after. My brother got clean and now has a happy family. I'm in college. My sister's leg healed up nicely, and my mom left us after a while, but that's a story for another time. Whoa, that is an incredible story. Thank you for your bravery in writing it out. I think if more people hear others going through stuff like this and what came of it, they won't feel so alone, and it helps. But very few ever speak of it for fear of repercussions. I guess that's what makes the anonymity of Reddit so wonderful. I didn't grow up with the best family. There was a long period of time where there was constant fighting, and things often went too far. I didn't feel safe in many different ways. It all culminated to a point when I was 17, disowned, and about to get kicked out. But my vindictive, defensive actions in the past made my mother know that kicking me out wasn't a good idea. I know the only reason I could have a roof over my head was because my mom isn't a citizen, and she knew I would have reported her for the crime of child abuse, which did happen, which would have put her residency in jeopardy. So, I guess I had to threaten to burn the village in order to feel the warmth of safety. Edit. A lot of people are assuming my mother is illegal, but she's not. I'm not exactly sure the mechanism through which she can stay in the United States, but she married my dad, American, and they got divorced. She can live and work here, but she doesn't have the full protection of the government like me. Threaten to burn the village in order to feel the warmth of safety. Thank you. I hope you have a good day. I had a co-worker at a non-commission based retail job where our co-worker would repeatedly sabotage my sales so she could get a lot of credit apps and a high GSP, AVGHR sales. She would overhear my pitch for cards, required, and then lie to the customer so they would apply. I would have to try and rectify what she said while she hovered over me. She did many other questionable things, and I reported to her multiple times, as did my co-workers and customers. Now, one time I got lucky and an 18-year-old kid came in. Yo, buy the most expensive desktop we have on display, 2.5k. She saw me do the sale, but I needed a manager to approve a tiny discount. But my radio was dead. Co-worker was watching me the entire time, so I asked if she'd call for the Monsignor. She stone cold ignores me. I go for the MGR. She prints out paperwork on the computer and tries to sell it to him. When I return, she literally yells at me in front of the customer to give her the sale. BC, she worked too. I ignored her and didn't give her the sale. When I reported this, as did the customer, he was mortified. I was literally told by my boss, ignore when she does that. She's a middle child, so she does stuff like that. I was tired of the stupid lack of action, so I filed an hour complaint regarding her, and 5 of my managers for not addressing it. They all got reamed for it. Only one is still in a management position. The rest were eventually demoted or laid off. Good on you. We need more satisfying ending stories in this thread. Out of curiosity, what was her commission percent? I wonder how much money it takes to get someone to act so shitty. The absurd thing is we made no commission. She was doing this for her own bragging rights and to look better than the depth in sales numbers. Unfortunately, it has a mixed ending. I left that job a couple months later to move to Korea. I was asked to work there again when I returned a year later, but was denied only by the one manager who is still there that I filed the complaint against. When I was a teenager living in rural Alabama, I didn't get along with my stepmother. She went out of her way to be as mean as she could to me. Once when she left the house, she took the mouse for the family computer with her so I couldn't use it while she was gone. Well, I did her one better by taking a cord from the back, then locking myself in my bedroom until she got home. She uses my little baby stepsister against me and tells her to tell me she has a present for me. As soon as I unlocked the door, stepmother yanks it out of my hand and starts screaming at me about why the computer won't work. Well, let me tell you, on both sides of me I had a steel pole lying against the wall and a simple glass of water. I briefly entertained the notion of smashing her in the face with the pole, and instead just chucked the harmless water in her face. Hello. I'm quite sure I avoided jail that night. So, is she still a massive bitch? Yeah, but luckily I live 3,000 miles away from her now. She isn't a part of my life anymore. Not for the past 15 years. I used to work in fast food, and was the only person in the store that didn't smoke. Everyone else got to take a break to smoke, but since I didn't smoke, I wasn't allowed to. Eventually, I spoke to the owner about it and was rebuffed, so I went over their heads to the company board. Owner got his ass chewed out for rebuffing me and I wound up getting a huge bonus my next paycheck, But when they discovered I reported them, I got fired immediately. Turns out they'd been violating company policy in food prep and storage. So I filed another report to corporate. Store got shut down for months and my former boss got fined 6 figures. When I managed a pizza place 20 years ago, I used to give non-smokers a Coke break to go drink a soda. It never seemed fair to me that the smokers would go fuck off for 10-20 minutes while everyone else worked. Plus, they always wanted to go smoke as soon as rush was over and it was time to clean. That's exactly what they did. And I'd have everything cleaned, restocked, and ready to go before they got back. Thank you for watching and listening to my channel. Feel free to drop a comment and be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification button for the latest video I publish every day. See you on the next video, very Reddit fans.